Back, I'm Dick Brennan. 2 stabbings on the subway this week. Now police say the same person is responsible for both attacks.
They're searching for this man here, identified as 52-year-old Jamar Banks. The NYPD says that he stabbed a 31-year-old man Wednesday on the 2 train at the 14th Street and 7th Avenue station. And then yesterday, police say he stabbed an off-duty MTA worker on the 5 train platform at the Pelham Parkway station.
Okay, so we got a man wanted for 2 different stabbings in 2 different days in 2 different subway stations in the city of New York. He's called Jamar Brooks. He's on the loose. They have no idea where he is. And it turns out when we look into this individual in particular, we find out that he has 87 prior arrests. No, you didn't just mishear me. Let me say it with a little more emphasis. 87 prior arrests before he committed these 2 stabbings, to which he has yet to be arrested for. This is the nonsense that we deal with constantly in the city of New York. This is the consequences of bail reform, and I'm sick of it. So greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Sean. We're going to talk about this particular case. We're going to talk about Jamar Banks and his 87 arrests prior to the stabbing, to which, again, he's still on the loose. At least the NYPD had the decency to say, hey, this guy's probably armed and dangerous, so be careful if you confront him. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
Both victims are in stable condition.
These and other recent attacks have caused the governor to try to react to stop the violence and address the mental health crisis.
So there's a lot of progressives, and a lot of progressives online in particular, that are confused about how Donald Trump and the Republicans did so well in this last election. Why so many counties moved significantly right, and why so many blue state strongholds also shifted dramatically to the right, and more so than traditional red states. And in reality, it is the same reason why Lee Zeldin overperformed all expectations as a Republican running for governor against Kathy Hochul. It's the same reason that Republicans won so many congressional seats in the state of New York in 22, and that is because they are sick of this nonsense. And what you just heard right there is objectively nonsense. I just opened this story by telling you that Jamar Banks, the man who is on the loose after stabbing 2 individuals in back-to-back days, including an MTA worker, had been arrested 87 times. And the reason why he's not in jail for any of those 87 arrests is due to the fact that we have New York State bail reform, which is championed by Governor Kathy Hochul, which releases criminals for crimes, and yes, this includes violent crimes, same day automatically without bail. We also have programs like Less is More, which basically makes it impossible if you're on probation or on parole for you to have your probation or parole violated. We also have woke, soft on crime district attorneys like District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and unfortunately some of these crimes did take place in Manhattan under his jurisdiction, who refused to prosecute anyone for anything. And by the way, if you're curious on whether or not Banks, who has mental health problems, has only 87 arrests for stealing bread for a starving family, his rap sheet, according to the New York Post, includes charges of attempted murder, weapons possession, assault, criminal trespassing, turnstile jumping, and petty larceny. So this guy is running the gambit of all these different crimes. Who could have assumed that a guy with a history of attempted murder charges and weapons possession would actually commit attempted murder with a weapon? It's so shocking. Who could have figured out that that was even a possibility for any of us to understand was a likely outcome of leaving this guy on the streets? So what we need to do is change that. The laws that we need to fix are bail reform laws, which again don't give judges in New York judgment, which they have in 49 other states in the union. It is a simple, logical, sensible fix, but for whatever reason, whenever crimes happen that are easily preventable by having accountability in the criminal justice system that was systematically removed by progressive Democrats in 2020, these people start talking about mental health. Isn't that guy who did those 2 stabbings and committed 87 other crimes the real victim in this circumstance? Isn't the issue that we don't have enough enough mental health counseling? No, there are times to talk about mental health. It is something that I am concerned about. But the fact of the matter is, the time to talk about mental health is before they commit 87 crimes. By the way, now 89 once he's arrested for these two, not after the fact. It is when we can actually intervene to help people before they're a danger to other people, not after they commit all these crimes and you're looking for a convenient excuse in order to deflect away from your bad policies. And honestly, I'm so sick of this nonsense. I'm so sick of this occurring time and time again. And I just want to point out that these subway crimes all occur on the heels of Governor Kathy Hochul doing that ridiculous performative "the subway is safe" thing. I'm gonna go take the train to Queens Center Mall to do some holiday shopping.
I'm on the subway train heading out to Queens Center. I have a lot of, not quite last minute, but I have holiday shopping to do. I've got an adorable 2-year-old granddaughter, so it's a lot more fun to shop.
Just so you guys know it's all safe, look at this photo of me taking a selfie with these two individuals. Please ignore the subway crime. Again, just shut up. Shut your faces, you stupid, ridiculous people. You ridiculously insane governor. Now look, there's a lot of people who will tell you that Gavin Newsom is the worst governor in the country, and that may be true. I don't live in California. I don't have to deal with them, but everything I hear related to Gavin Newsom is horrible. But if he's the worst, Governor Kathy Hochul is right on his ass, because every time this woman is brought a real problem, she cannot help but fail to present a legitimate solution.
The string of shocking incidents includes a man being shoved onto the tracks and fracturing his skull. The new year also saw 3 subway stabbings in 3 days. Last month, a woman was set on fire and killed on a train in Coney Island.
So right there, the local news runs through a couple of different instances that have occurred in the city of New York. And I just want to point out, when they say last month a woman was set on fire, that was not really last month or really last year, even though technically that's true. That was at the end of December. So almost all of these instances have happened in the last 2 weeks. And as covered in a previous video on this channel, they almost all followed up Governor Kathy Hochul's propaganda campaign about how the subway is so much safer, and it's so safe she deployed more National Guard to the subway than have been there since post 9/11 America.
I can take the subway where we need to go, and I want all New Yorkers to feel safe, which is why we've added so many more National Guard, over 250 more people to make sure that your ride is as safe as it can be.
That is what they're trying to sell you, that the National Guard is there because the subway is so safe that Governor Kathy Hochul wants you to see, or wants the army to see, how safe her subway is, when in reality, we know they're there to deal with the insane violence. Again, I'm often one to quote that we had lost more people in like 4 years of time, which was true at the midpoint of 2024, than the previous 15 years, but it turns out that number has gone up. More people have died in the subway in the last 5 years than died in the previous 20 years in the New York City transit system. So while they used all these statistical tricks in order to dodge and get around the fact that the subway is more dangerous, the facts are what they are. Subway system is more deadly than it's been in previous decades, and guess what? They're now trying to force you into it via congestion pricing, because so many people are refusing to take it due to the dangers and the real dangers of that subway system.
It's really unfortunate. People can't travel, they can't take the train or a bus, and they have to always look over their back.
You know, one of the things I like about the local news media in the city of New York is that they interview average, everyday New Yorkers. This person happens to be a Bronx resident, and they tell you that it's insane. They feel like they have to watch their back constantly while riding the train, and this is the real people of the city of New York, unlike the activist class that we often hear too much from, that talks about how it's so safe and honestly mocks the concerns of average, everyday people who are worried about crime in the subway. One of the examples of that is the people over at the Majority Report. Of course, you have Emma Vigeland, who quite literally tweeted out just before the spike in incidents that she was hoping to see crime in the subway because she loves the fact that she could get Daily Wire money, saying that the people who are concerned about this are getting paid by right-wing media, when in reality, she is the one who gets to enjoy those luxury beliefs without actually having to deal with the consequences that average, everyday New Yorkers do. And she's also somebody who believes that if you get struck in the subway, if you get hurt, then you should just move away, because honestly, the person who attacks you, they're just going through a mental health crisis.
I was hit at one point sitting on the subway by a man who was having a mental health episode. He sat next to me and he was elbowing and kind of flailing around and hit me in the face and in my body. And it was jarring, right? The idea that I would want him to be hurt in any way. I just didn't want to be near him in that moment because I understood something was going on here. Every one of us who's taken public transit has had this kind of situation, something similar happen, seeing someone struggling. That doesn't mean that our fear in that instance, and I was a little scared because I was hit.
It's a problem. Like, it's people that need help.
But my fear is not the primary object of like what we should be focusing on right now. It's the fact that this person is in pain. And so like the politics of dehumanization privileges the bourgeois kind of concern of people's like immediate discomfort in this narrow instance, as opposed to larger humanity and life. It's really freaking twisted.
Yeah,
So this is who Governor Kathy Hochul is trying to appeal to, by the way, when you see the reports of these stabbings, and she's like, oh, you know what? Mental health. We got to talk about mental health, the mental health of the attacker. And guess what? This plague of people with horrible positions does exist in other people that are interviewed in this segment, and I want you to realize who is talking about it when they cut to this person.
I think that it's a greater problem that is mental health crisis, and it doesn't seem to be being dealt with.
So they interview this Harlem resident right here and notice that she's wearing a mask in 2025. Now again, elderly Asians typically wear masks in the subway due to the fact that there's dust and whatnot prior to the pandemic, but this was not a thing for people outside of that demographic, so I find it incredibly weird that this person is still wearing a mask at this point in time. But based on the political positions that are expressed by her, it becomes less weird, because if you're one of these people who's still worried about COVID and still thinks that we should be doing lockdowns, then turns out it is very likely that you're also one of these people who denies crime and says, oh my god, the poor innocent angel bebe mental health people, like Banks, who of course was arrested 87 times, and we're not going to mention bail reform throughout this whole segment.
Governor Kathy Hochul cited that mental health crisis in announcing plans to spend $1 billion to revamp care and change New York's involuntary commitment laws.
We need to ensure that those who are suffering from severe mental illness are getting the care they need.
I'm going to be perfectly honest with all of you guys out there in the audience. I hate this woman. I despise Governor Kathy Hochul for a number of reasons. First and foremost, I just want to point out, the reason they're doing the congestion pricing is because they expect to raise $1 billion in order to get $15 billion in federal grant money. But that is only to be raised by doing congestion pricing and taxing drivers and trying to force people in the subway. But all of a sudden, when there's crime, when there's criminal activity, when somebody is arrested 87 times and released over and over again due to bail reform Governor Kathy Hochul has championed, they find $1 billion not to address the crime, but to do mental health stuff and mental health care. And we're going to just do it because, you know, it's dangerous for you guys out there in the subway to deal with the mental health people. But the mental health people are still victims, and you're still not a victim, so you're just going to have to suck it up. How about you change bail reform? How about you shut your stupid face, admit that you were wrong about bail reform, and you do something about it? 87 times this man was arrested. Over and over again, he was released. And we're talking about how the problem is, oh, we need some changes to obscure mental health law that involves outpatient treatment, when again, these people need to be confined. They need to be held in captivity. If you offend 87 times, it is very likely you're going to offend an 88th and an 89th time, and that's exactly what happened here. He stabbed 2 people, and we're talking about, oh my god, this obscure random law, and not about bail reform. What is wrong with these people?
The governor also called for making changes to Kendra's Law, which provides court-ordered outpatient care for people who are at risk to themselves or others. Critics say Kendra's Law is not the problem.
Kendra's Law has been on the books since 1999, and we know how to use it. We just haven't used it, and we haven't used it properly, and there's no accountability.
We don't need to change the law. What we need to do is change a system so that there are options and opportunities for people to be connected to services.
So right there we get 2 quick interviews from a Queens public official and somebody from the New York ACLU branch. And I just want to point out one of the things that this person said that's absolutely crucial, which is the law that she's talking about changing has been in effect since 1999. Now, we've seen the greatest crime decrease in American history, in the city of New York's history, from the mid-90s all the way up until 2019 to 2020, when the Black Lives Matter riots happened, when bail reform happened and all these different new laws have happened. So that law is not the problem. That law is not the issue. That is not the driving force behind this increase in subway crime. The issue is bail reform. The issue is you release the repeat offenders over and over again, and then you're shocked when they repeat offend. So the idea that we need to fix this other thing or address something maybe from the 70s, that might be the real issue in order to solve this, is absurd. We had mentally ill people in the city of New York prior to bail reform. The difference between the pre-bail reform and post-bail reform period is that when they were arrested 87 times, they were held in captivity. They were removed from the streets. They were incapacitated. And for them to cut to an ACLU representative, I think it's the NYCLU is what it's called in the city of New York, and not point out that she is one of the chief people responsible for this in both regards, A, for lobbying for the stupid-ass bail reform law, but B, for lobbying against any kind of restriction on the mentally ill because it's a civil liberties issue to allow crazy people on the streets, to allow them to be homeless, to allow them to attack people, is absurd. This is not an expert that you should be going to for anything except for condemnation. I love civil liberties organizations. I love people that fight for First Amendment rights, for Second Amendment rights, for Fourth Amendment rights, for all that good stuff. But these people are totally insane. They're fighting for the rights of mentally ill people to be released over and over and over again. And the reason she's mad at Governor Kathy Hochul is because maybe, just maybe, this might increase involuntary incapacitation of mentally ill crazies that could be exercising their supposed civil liberty of attacking people on the streets. So get this woman off my screen. Honestly, remove her from this segment, edit her out, unless you're going to condemn her, unless you're going to attack her, because this organization has done more to advocate for the criminals and advocate for the things that create the problems than almost any organization in the city of New York, besides, of course, Black Lives Matter.
In response to the violence, the governor has also deployed extra state police and 1,000 members of the New York National Guard to help patrol the subway.
Honestly, again, I'm sorry to say this because, I don't like to throw hatred at people just because they're politically opposed to me, but the fact of the matter is, I hate her. I hate Governor Kathy Hochul. I despise this woman. She's deploying state police, she's deploying National Guard into the subway system, which, by the way, she just told us 2 weeks ago was so safe that she would ride there in order to go to Queens Center Mall in order to do her holiday shopping. But the fact of the matter is, they can't do anything. Even if they make arrests because of New York State bail reform law, these people are released time and time again. For you to not understand that somebody who committed multiple stabbings with 87 prior arrests and was still out on the street is an issue with bail reform shows willful ignorance or honestly insanity. And I don't know with these progressives what they're actually into. If they're actually just denying it just to deny it for propaganda purposes because they never want to admit that they're wrong, or if they're actually insane, but it doesn't matter because the effect is still the same. You can't do anything to solve it. And it's really unfortunate because unlike other major cities, the people in the city of New York actually do vote for tough on crime politicians. Eric Adams, for all his problems, ran as the most tough on crime Democrat in the Democratic primary by far, and he won overwhelmingly. And he won, by the way, in the highest crime areas in the city of New York. This is essentially the anti-Chicago, where the most criminal areas voted for Brandon Johnson, the softest politician. In New York, they voted for the harshest politician among their options. So people want this change. They're pushing for it. They are changing it up in local elections. We are seeing surprising results to all these different various progressives, not surprising to me because I know the people in the city of New York. I know that they know that things used to be better not that long ago, and we can get back to that point. But not with these Democrats, not with these politicians who refuse to reanalyze bail reform, which is obviously the creator of all these different problems. Again, 87 arrests, 87 arrests. If you have 8 arrests for the same crime, you are likely to be on your way to being a repeat offender. This guy had 87, and now we're talking about, oh my God, isn't his life so sad? Mental illness, golly gee, we gotta address that. And again, I'm not saying you throw mentally ill people under the bus, but maybe when you have 87 chances to intervene and your system releases that person 87 times, you shouldn't be surprised. You shouldn't be surprised that he went and stabbed people. I don't know what else to say about this, but you know what? Those are those are just my thoughts. That's all I really want to share with you. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Am I wrong? Should we just take care of these innocent Beba Angel mentally ill people while releasing them over and over again? Or maybe, just maybe, after, I don't know, 86 arrests, can we hold them in capacity? Maybe after 85 arrests, can we hold them in capacity? How about 3 arrests? Can we hold them after a 3rd strike in awaiting trial and then actually prosecute them? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the madness in New York City, the absolute insanity. Till next time.